Sarah Cater, and you're watching Aliens, Clones, and Airships. You guys who have been watching me for a while know that I am a booktuber, so I really enjoy reading and reviewing books, but I've also been an unpublished author for over 10 years. I thought it was about time that I started joining this community here on YouTube. So this is going to be my AuthorTube Newbie Tag. I've already done the BookTube Newbie Tag, and if you want to see that, I will drop the link in the description below. But if you are just now watching this for the first time, my channel is going to consist mainly of all things books, including BookTube and AuthorTube, some of my own writing and writing from other people. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. So the first question is, how did I find out about AuthorTube? The way that I found out about AuthorTube was through looking at a bunch of BookTube videos from some of my friends. I was following Emma Books and Common Spence, so I had seen them for a while, but I didn't really know anyone from AuthorTube. I knew some authors from social media. I knew that I wanted to connect with people who are writers just like me, but I didn't really know that there was this kind of community here on YouTube. So when I found that out, when I saw someone, I don't remember who it was, but they had the AuthorTube Newbie Tag themselves, I was like, oh my god, there's something called AuthorTube. There's something for authors and for people who love books. This is so cool. I should probably get in on that because I am also a writer and I love YouTube. So this is why I'm here. Question 2, what genres do I usually write in? I'm really interested in science fiction, fantasy, horror, and dystopian, and I think that my writing kind of reflects some of those genres as well. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my current work in progress is. I know it's somewhere between dystopian and science fiction. There are some scary elements to it as well, which is why I don't consider it horror, but there are some moments in it that are definitely intense and terrifying for people who will eventually read it. So I think if I were to categorize what I'm writing right now, it would probably most likely be science fiction with dystopian as the undertone. But in general, I do like to write fantasy and I do like to write science fiction. And if you couldn't tell by the name of my channel, it is definitely what I'm really interested in. Number 3, what is your preferred writing tense? So when I first started writing, I was writing in first person and I was trying to write in present tense, and it was not working for me. I have trouble with first person. I've mentioned that in some of my BookTube videos where when another writer writes in first person, especially if the first person perspective changes within the story multiple times, I have a really hard time knowing who the speaker or the narrator is. In general, first person is fine. I tend to not do well myself when I write in first person. I don't really connect well to the story if it's in first person, so I would much rather write it in third person where I get to see everything that's going on. So I'm definitely a third person omniscient writer. I have tried doing third person limited, and I just personally would rather do omniscient because I like knowing everything that's going on in the story and having the readers know before the characters do. That's probably the tense I'm going to write the most in. I may try writing in other tenses as well, but for now I think that third person omniscient is probably the one I'm going to write the most in. Number 4, am I a plotter, a pantser, or a plantser? I would have to say that I'm a plantser. So I'm a mix between coming up an outline and writing randomly. I used to just write scenes and not know where they were going, so then I started plotting things out. However, having everything outlined doesn't help me because my characters like to go in their own direction, and having the outline does help me pull them back into the story where I want it to go, but these characters are so strong. They've become their own people that it's really hard to keep them on course without taking away some of their identities. So I think that I am definitely a plantser where I try to come up with some plot, but then I allow my characters to go where they want to go, and I just kind of go with the flow. I write scenes that go along with my mood in order to make sure that everything I'm writing is realistic and the mood is portrayed throughout the whole story. Number 5, am I self-published, published, or yet to be published? So like I said before, I have not published my books yet, so I am yet to be published. However, I am hoping to finish writing the book that I've been working on currently about cloning, within this year. And then I had another series on the back burner for a few years. I had started writing that back when I was 12, and I love the idea still. I just think it needs some work. So I put that on the back burner, started working on this series, and then I'm going to go back to the first one in order to make sure that I'm telling it the way I want it to be told, because I think it is a really good series and a really good idea, and I don't want to butcher it by leaving it the way that it is now. I want to be able to go back to it once I've had some experience under my belt writing the book that I'm writing now, because I think that I'm doing a much better job now than I did when I was 12 years old, which is understandable because I was a lot younger then and my writing style has definitely changed. But I do really, again, like the ideas that I've had. If I'm not published yet, which literary agent or publishing company is my dream company to go to? I would have to say that I love Penguin Random House. I have always had a strong love for them, especially because I got to visit this year their office in Manhattan, and I loved the environment there, and I loved the people, and it seemed like home. I'd have to say that Penguin Random House and HarperCollins are my top choices, but again, I have never been published before, so I am more than willing to be represented by any good company. Number 7, what AuthorTube videos can you expect to see on my channel? A lot of the videos that I've seen on AuthorTube happen to be tag videos, so you're definitely going to see some AuthorTube and BookTube tags on my channel. I'm hoping as I get better at writing and as I go through my journey of writing, I will have some other videos about my work. Also, if I ever have tips on things that could help other writers or authors, I will probably have videos about those as well. I do like to give tips when I have things that I know work for me. Number 8, when did you start writing? So again, I really started writing when I was in middle school. That's when I first had the idea for my very first book, and it eventually became a series. So I started really writing back then, but I had been writing before that, however it wasn't as good and I wasn't as serious about it back then. I wrote this little book about a girl who sees this haunted house, goes to investigate, and basically finds out that the butler did it. But again, I never finished it, and it was the most cheesy story I could have ever written. But I like to think of that as a starting point because I can go and see how I've grown from there. And yeah, so I guess I really did start writing before I was in middle school, but when I really started being serious about writing was in middle school when I first had the idea for the series that I've put on the back burner for now, but I'm definitely going to be going back to and fixing it up now that I've become a much better writer than I was when I was in middle school. Number 9, what was the first story you ever wrote? I kind of touched on this in the last question, but I, again, wrote this cute little story that was extremely cheesy. And the other series that I really consider my first book is a story about a girl who moves to a new town, makes new friends, was not treated very well in the past, and ends up finding out that aliens are taking over the world. And she and her friends have to figure out what these aliens want. Eventually, I will get around to finishing that series. I really need to do some more thought and more plotting and fix up the way that it's been written, because again, 12-year-old me had certain expectations on how to write a book, and now that I am 22, I definitely know that my writing style back then was childish and not quite the way that would be best to represent this series. Number 10, what authors have inspired my writing style the most? I would definitely have to say Stephen King and Edgar Allan Poe are huge inspirations for me. I do love the horror genre and I love their writing styles. I try to incorporate horror in all of my stories, at least elements of horror. I don't want my entire book to be just scare tactics. I do want there to be moments that are terrifying, and I do want them to be inspired by my favorite horror writers. However, with my interest being mainly in science fiction and fantasy and dystopian, I focus mainly on those in my writing and add the elements of horror in there as more of a bonus, I guess, to the story. And I try to do it in the most realistic way as possible without it just being all gore. They have inspired me. J.K. Rowling obviously has inspired me. having grown up loving Harry Potter. I definitely love Neil Shusterman. I think that his writing style as a dystopian writer is fantastic, especially the Unwind Dystology, one of my absolute favorite series. I think that they have definitely helped me figure out how I'm going to write the book that I'm writing now, and how to best execute the ideas that I have. Number 11, do you schedule your writing sessions or do you just write when you feel like it? I'm kind of a mix of both. Sometimes it's nice to have things planned out ahead of time. I do sometimes say I'm gonna go on this day and sit down at a cafe and just write. Other days I just have random bouts of inspiration and I sit down and I'm like, I have to write this all down now or I'm gonna forget. So it really just depends on the day or how I'm feeling. I do try to plan things out. Also, if I plan things ahead of time and then the day comes that I'm supposed to write and then I don't feel like writing, then I just don't, because I know that my writing won't be the best it can be if I'm not feeling it. Number 12, do I write with a computer, a typewriter, or do I write by hand? I like to write things out by hand and then finish the writing with my computer. So I'll write out the first draft of a scene and then quickly type it up into my story when I think the scene that I've written on paper is good enough. My process is very Frankenstein, I think. I do like to write certain things when I feel a certain way and take them later on and put them in the right order and fix up the wording and make sure everything flows later on. But it definitely helps to have the things already written so that I can fix it up in the future. Last but not least, number 13, what am I most looking forward to in AuthorTube? I'm definitely looking forward to connecting with other authors and writers. I've done a little bit of that on social media, but I don't really feel like I have a community anymore. I used to have a community years ago with them on social media and we've kind of lost touch, so I really want to be around other people who are like-minded and love writing and coming up with stories and inspiring people. So I really do want to connect with people who have the same passion as me. And I do want to learn from other authors as well. I'm hoping to connect so that I can learn from others and their experiences and hopefully help others who are, maybe behind where I am and help push them toward getting to their goals. So I want to connect with other people who love to write, who may be struggling with their writing or know more about writing and the process of publishing than I do. I am looking forward to meeting new faces and hopefully seeing some of my old friends from social media on AuthorTube as well and convincing them to join us online here so that we can all be a big community. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to connecting with others and seeing all of y'all. So this has been fun. I don't really know anyone on AuthorTube yet, so I am going to tag anyone who sees this video. I look forward to having a wonderful writing community with all of you. And please definitely check out my booktube videos as well if you're interested in finding books to read and hearing a little bit about the ones that I like. And if you like science fiction and fantasy and dystopian, I'm probably going to be reviewing those more than any of the other genres. However, I am trying to expand my reading habits. So I may dabble in some other genres as well. Anyway, I hope to see you guys again next time, and I hope that by my next video I get to connect with some of you wonderful people, because again, I think it'll be so much fun and I'm really looking forward to meeting new faces. So anyway, this has been fun. Bye!